Hey there, and happy Saturday from Tim at AlphaWolfTrading.com, coming at you with next week's stocks to watch for trading and investing. Primarily just going to focus on the stocks that are coming up for earnings next week. It could be a very interesting week. I just got done, just completed the video for the pro members over at Alpha Wolf Trading where I went into a pretty in-depth analysis of where we are with the markets. I will just say this, I'm not going to go through everything I just went through for the pro members, but I will just say this. This market currently, with all the saber rattling that's going on, the rise in volatility, breaking below 50-day moving average in several indexes, this is probably more of a day trading type market for the next week or so. And we're in one of the weakest months for the market. August, September, October, typically challenging months for the markets, and we're seeing a little bit of weakness out there. So could see some follow through and continuation, wrapping up a tremendous earnings season, even though that's not really reflecting in stocks and their price action. But then again, we had a pretty nice move into earnings season. So this is a time to be a bit skeptical. It's a great time to have some cash on the sidelines, and something that I've been telling the pro members for the last several weeks is that if you've got profits in your long-term hold portfolio or you've got profits in your swing portfolio, probably wouldn't be a terrible time to lock some of those profits in. Not suggesting to sell your entire portfolio, but not a bad idea to lock some profits, raise some cash, because if we do get any kind of a significant pullback, it's going to create some buying opportunities of good quality stocks, good quality names that are just going to be on sale. So you can't take advantage of those things if you don't have any cash. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with the stocks, or what we've got coming up next week in terms of economic data. We do have the FOMC minutes, which will be announced on Wednesday. That could impact the markets. We've got housing starts, retail sales, Empire State Manufacturing, import-export, business inventories, housing market. Let's see, jobless claims, Philly Fed Business Outlook Survey, industrial production, consumer comfort, and petroleum status report. And we've got consumer sentiment and Baker Hughes rig count. So we do have some economic data that could impact the markets one way or the other. E-commerce, retail sales is another one that's probably pretty interesting to keep an eye on. But we do have some economic data that can impact the markets coming up next week. And we still do have earnings that are coming out. And we'll go ahead and take a look at the earnings that are on my radar and of some interest. Let me shrink this down to fit into the screen, and then we'll go ahead and go through the list of stocks that I have on the radar. So I had a whole nother list that I went through with the pro members of stocks that I like, and also turned them on to a new ETF tool that I found that looks pretty darn exciting as well. But to get those stocks and that ETF tool and all this other stuff that we do, you got to become a pro member over at Alpha Wolf Trading. That's the deal. But still have some good stuff to show you here. So the squares or rectangles with the green border are ones that I've looked at the charts, and I think potentially there could be a trading opportunity off of their earnings. The other ones that have the black boxes around them, I may not be looking to trade that particular stock. I might just be interested to see how the earnings come out for the sector, or I may be interested in seeing what they do after their earnings. Target retail stocks, I'm interested to see what they do, but I'm not necessarily interested in taking them for a trade. So that's what we're going to go through. We're going to go through all of the green boxes that I have highlighted, and why I'm looking at them, and how I might potentially trade them. So that's what we're looking at here. And most of these could be day trading type opportunities. Now, you know, listen, because the market, I think we could be in the beginning stage of maybe something more significant than just a quick pull. The markets are guilty till proven innocent. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't start swings or start long-term holds. What it does mean, though, is that you do it size appropriate. Now, you know, for day traders, adding to a losing position is a terrible way to go. In long-term investors and swing, even maybe long-term swing holders, building a position over time as, you know, price pulls back to areas of support, as long as the dominant trend of that stock is from lower left to upper right, I don't think that's necessarily a terrible way to go. So, you know, if you want to look to start building a position in a stock that you really like on a pullback to an area of potential price support, I don't see anything wrong with that. Just don't jump in with both feet, right? Build your position over time. Like, for example, one that I am watching, if you've been watching me for recently, bots and robo, I would like to get involved in those ETFs, and I would like to start building them on positions of potential price support, which on a pullback. So, but I think there could be ideally some really good day trading opportunities out there. So let's take a look at the stocks on this week's list of stocks to watch. This SORL, just, you know, their last earnings report was impressive, had a big run, you know, gapped up and kept on going. This is a small float, 7.9 million shares in the float, almost 17% short interest. You know, it's kind of been bouncing around in between these areas of resistance and support. You know, 920 is a big area, or over $9 basically is a big area to try and get through. It's pulled back right to the 100 EMA heading into its earnings, which are reporting Monday before the open. And, you know, this thing is above its 200-day. It's below the 50-day. It's right at the 50 EMA and flirting with the $7 HALA. Now, if they report earnings and it gaps up to $8 or so, that could be a challenging place to try and take it, right? We've got some resistance right there at $8. If it gaps to 8 and pulls back, maybe you look for a gap fill for a bounce or a pullback to 750, where you've got the 50 SMA for a bounce, and you've also got a little bit of price support there. You know, look, if they report terrible earnings and this thing gaps down, well, then maybe you don't look at this until for a trade until you get a gap fill, right, or a pullback to the 200-day moving average. But this had a tremendous amount of volume on this big run. It's absorbing that, pulling back on lower volume. Could be a good day trading opportunity there. You've got to make sure you've got some volume and liquidity to be able to play this trade. Traded 504,000 shares on Friday, so that's decent liquidity to be able to get in and out. So that one reports Monday before the open. I think it's worth keeping an eye on for a potential day trading opportunity. If you hit it for a nice day trade and you want to hold some lotto shares for a swing to see if you get potentially a 2 or 3 day run, nothing wrong with that strategy. If you want to just lock it out and close it out before the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with that strategy either. But that's one worth keeping an eye on. EBIO, biotech. Now, IBB is under a bit of pressure, but this is interesting here, this EBIO, because it's near an area of potential price support, right? That's kind of what I'm looking at here. It's been acting as support right around $1.30. You know, it was sitting there on Friday, got a little bit of a bounce. The castics curled up, got a little bit of volume. They report earnings before the open on Monday. This could have a trend line break. It does have a lot of potential resistance overhead. You've got the 100 EMA. You've got some price resistance at about $1.50 or so, right? $1.60, right in that area. You've got some price resistance. You got the 100 EMA at $1.65. And that also acted as support, acted as resistance. And then you've got the 200-day up around $1.80 or so. you know, depending on what the news is out of EBIO, small float, 15.4 million shares in the float, did trade 265,000 shares on Friday, so you could have some decent liquidity there to be able to get in and out. I would not chase the gap open on anything. I want to make that very clear. You got a gap open, don't buy the first candle of the opening, right? You got to wait and see if you get some kind of an intraday setup. But EBIO could be a good day trader, but keep in mind, you know, you have to watch the sector, see what the sector is doing. You don't want to be battling the sector. Doesn't mean you can't get a quick scalp though. So keep an eye on EBIO, potential day trading opportunity. CETX, actually one of the pro members brought this one up. I think it was Friday, either in our pre-market live session or maybe it was in the chat room. But CETX, interesting look. It did just break this trend line. It is flirting with the 50-day moving average. Now this one reports on Monday before the open, right? Now they filed for a mixed shelf offering, 20 million back in June, and I don't think they've done an offering yet. So this had a little pop on Friday, pretty decent volume spike heading into their earnings. Now it's at an area of resistance. You know, 350 would be a pretty big spot to get through. It's already had a run into that 350 mark. If they disappoint, maybe you see a pullback to $3, which is kind of acting as support right there in the $3 area. But this one, if it gets a big pop, you know, this is another one that would be strictly a day trade opportunity. Primarily because of the fact that it's got that mixed shelf offering out there, and you know they could look to raise capital. So only 5.3 million shares in the float, 12% short interest, potential day trade opportunity in CTEX if they've got a good earnings report and you get some positive price action. But again, look for a good intraday setup. But CETX could be worth watching. TEUM, look at this one, sitting right on top of the dollar holla, trying to hold that as support, sitting on top of the 50 EMA after a big pop, volume spike, pulled back, consolidated. What did we trade in volume? Looks like we traded almost half a million shares on Friday. Only 14 million shares in the float, right? Messing with this, flirting with this trend line. It is below the declining 200-day moving average, but you know this thing could go back up and test into that 150, 175 area. When does this report? This reports Monday after the close, right? So Monday after the close, this is in a long-term downtrend. Hold on one second. This is in a long-term God. All right, so in a long-term downtrend in this TEUM, just want to see. I'm freezing up. I'll put you on pause. I'll be right back as soon as I get the charts back. All right, so this TEUM, very interesting spot. You know, if you look at this thing on a weekly time frame, talk about value destruction, right? I mean, they have absolutely decimated their shareholders over time. Just did a reverse split, 1 for 23 or 25, reverse split. Okay, so flagging out right on top of the $1 holla, reverse split, low float, decent volume, got to have some liquidity, could present an opportunity for a break. Worth keeping an eye on this one for a day trading opportunity. We'll see what they report for earnings after the close on Monday. CSIQ reports before the open. This has been in consolidation mode for a while, basically since mid-June, right? And maybe that was earnings that popped it there, but it broke over an area of price resistance at about $15.60 or so. Let's just call it $16, right? Broke over $16, and has been in consolidation mode. Got up to about $18 where there is some price resistance, consolidating, waiting on earnings. We'll see, maybe we get a breakout over 18 with some conviction. Another one that's only got about 44 million shares in the float, fairly small float with a 12% short interest. Could be a day trading opportunity there, and they report Monday before the open. Look for some kind of an intraday setup. WPRT, Westport Fuel Systems, kind of an interesting looking chart, right? Had a big pop, pulled back to an area of price. Well, actually, it's at an area of price resistance right now, flirting with that short-term trend line. Actually did fairly decent volume. I don't know what the overall float is in this thing, but my guess is it's probably a pretty small float. It's above the 200-day, right at the 50 EMA, flirting with a 2 roll. Was overbought, working off that overbought condition. Maybe look for a trend line break and a 2 test or 2 roll off of earnings. They report Monday after the close. So see what happens there, but could be in play on Tuesday. APHB, this is a itty bitty penny stock. That's right, itty bitty penny stock. They report, I believe, on Friday. ASND, no, I'm sorry. They report Monday after the close. Amplify. Not crazy about this chart. I mean, biotech, you know, maybe it's found a bottom. We'll see. Could get a trend line break. Maybe you get a, you know, a test over up to the dollar holla. Probably find some resistance there. If it takes out the dollar, maybe you get a test into the 50 SMA at about $1.15, $1.16. Takes that out with some conviction, you could get a gap fill, right? Again, 8.4 million shares in the float, 11, almost 12% short interest. This one not so much for liquidity, right? Traded 165,000 shares on Friday. You got to make sure you have some real good volume if you're going to try and play this. This report's Monday after the close. We'll see what they do. You know, maybe you get a dollar test on this one, right? Maybe a test up to $1.10, somewhere in that area. Just a day trade scalp opportunity on that one. I'm not super crazy about that one, but you never know. You never know what earnings could do for this one, so we'll keep an eye on it. All right, next on the list, WUBA. This is 58.com. Nice consolidation, really nice consolidation. At an area of potential price resistance, been flagging out there. It's a big spot to try and get through, the $52, 52, you know, let's call it 52.50, right? Try to get through that. Nice consolidation, rising 50-day moving average, rising 200-day moving average, rising 100-day moving average. So a lot of good stuff going on here with this WUBA. You know, if they report good earnings and they report on Wednesday after the close, you know, maybe you get a pullback to the 50-day, somewhere around $47 or so, $46.50, and then you get a bounce. There's some price support there. If they beat, you know, you could get a breakout, gap up breakout. So worth keeping an eye on. WUBA, ASND. They report on Friday before the open. I think this is a recent IPO. Hold on a second, maybe I'm wrong. No, not that recent. 2015. It's kind of got an interesting look to it. It's above the 50-day. Kind of got a little pennant formation going here, flirting with that trend line, bouncing off the 50 SMA. You know, this only traded 24,000 shares, so that's one issue with the stock. But you know, take out the $28 holla on some volume. Maybe you get a nice trading opportunity out of this. It has had some nice volume days in the past, so could be worth keeping an eye on for a trade opportunity on Friday after it reports. HMY, this is not a great looking gold chart, but we do know that gold is getting a little bit of a pop because of all the saber rattling and stuff, geopolitical stuff going on around the world. This has got an interesting look. Maybe you get a 2 test, right? I have other gold miners that I like much better than this one, but this could be worth keeping an eye on after earnings. They traded 3.5 million shares on Friday, so plenty of liquidity. Here's the issue, though. It's ran up 4 days in anticipation of their earnings, which are actually on Thursday before the open. So could be a day trade, could be a trade opportunity in this name. Might be just more interested in this one to see how it impacts the overall sector, right? So worth keeping an eye on HMY for a potential day trading opportunity off of a good earnings report, or maybe just see how it impacts the sector after their earnings. EXTR, Extreme Network. So, you know, they just had a pretty good earnings report. They're doing a big acquisition. Can't remember who they're buying or what they're buying, but a big acquisition. Had a nice little run. It's been pulling back. It's at an area of potential price support at that 100 EMA. They report earnings to Monday after the open. If they disappoint, you could see a pullback into the 200-day moving average, somewhere around the $7 hollow, and that could be an interesting spot maybe to look at taking it for a swing or a long-term hold. I mean, you have to see what the report is on this one. You know, if they really disappoint, then maybe you get a, you know, it could break below that 200-day and come down and test this trend line, which would put us somewhere around 6 and change. That could be an interesting spot to look at EXTR, but it's been in a nice, it's had a very nice move up recently. It is, like I said, pulling back to an area of potential support. We'll see what earnings look like, but this one's only got 105 million shares in the float, so pretty small float on EXTR. CLSN, they report Tuesday before the open. Just did a reverse split, 1 for 14. Ugly chart, ugly chart. Flirting with all-time lows. 3.9 million shares in the float, 12% short interest. Could be a day trading opportunity in there somewhere. You know, this one tends to be a pop and flopper, so you don't want to chase it. And you know, look, if it pops and starts to flop, it could even actually be a decent short opportunity if you can find shares. But this one could be interesting to keep an eye on Tuesday. You know, you could see a spike in this one heading into Tuesday, right? Don't get suckered into that. Don't get suckered into that. Wait until after Tuesday to potentially look to take a trade in Celsius. CGIX is reporting on Monday after the close. So 10% owner did buy 100,000 shares, 375 in June. This has been holding this 345, let's call it, area as potential support. It's been consolidating. You know, I think there was a short report that was put out on this one not too long ago. I think, you know, I think it's worth keeping an eye on this one. Depending on what they have to say with earnings, this has only got 16 million shares in float and 10% short interest, and this has been a nice consolidation for a while. See if it breaks down or breaks up, but pretty good looking daily setup on CGIX. Don't chase it, right? It can be a pop and flopper. ASUR, this one is reporting Monday before the open. You know, here's what I find kind of interesting about it. It's pulling back to the 200-day moving average. That could be a potential bounce spot. You've got stochastics which are starting to curl to the upside. If they report good earnings, maybe you get a test up into the 1350 area, or the $13.50 area. You know, likely going to have some resistance right here at the trend line and about 1350, 1360. You've got some price resistance there. If it takes that out, then maybe you get a pop back up into testing that $18 range. You know, 6.8 million shares in the float. Small float on this. 14% short interest. You know, and it does have a nice little short-term trend. I mean, look at what it just did. It pulled back and it bounced right here, and then it just pulled back and bounced again, and here we have these earnings. So could be a little springboard for it, that little trend line, and almost touch the 200-day moving average. So a lot going on with ASUR. If it gets some good volume and they report good earnings, this could be in play on Monday. And, you know, I think it's worth keeping an eye on that one for potential day trade. Look for an intraday setup on ASUR. SNPS, semiconductor equipment. You know, look, this has had an amazing run. Lower left, upper right, been in consolidation mode really for a bit here. You know, this could be an earnings breakout, right? I mean, they report, where is this one? Oh, they report Wednesday after the close, right? So could be a range breakout on this one. See how it acts heading into those earnings. Maybe you drift down and test this area of support here. And actually, it's sitting right on an area of price support, $74.80 or so, $75. See if that holds as support. 132 million shares in the float. Not a big short interest, but it's a pretty good looking setup on the daily. Lower left, upper right. Maybe you look for a pullback to support around $72. See if it bounces. 72.50, somewhere in that area. Pull back to the 100 EMA. It has a pretty nice look. I think it's worth at least having on the radar. BRFH. So this is kind of an interesting looking. It's a penny stock, right? Another penny stock. Small, only traded 54,000 shares, but it has had days where it's traded over 500, 600,000 shares. It's kind of a wild looking chart here, but it's an interesting company. They make pre-made smoothies, I believe, and they just signed on some school districts and for, you know, nutritional smoothies. And it's been around for a while. It broke over this trend line, broke over the 200-day, broke over the 50-day, right, and then pulled back. And now it's testing the top end of that trend line, and it's just below the 200-day. They report Monday after the close. If they report a good earnings, give good guidance, you know, taking out 80 cents would be kind of a big deal for this thing. Potential flat top breakout. You know, looking maybe at a day trading opportunity if you get some real volume in this name. Could be interesting, right? Look for it to break over 80. And if you miss that, then maybe if it does break over 80, what acted as resistance potentially acts as support on the way back down. I don't know. I mean, potential day trading opportunity, scalp opportunity there in that BRFH. Going to do a little more due diligence on that one. NTAP reports NetApp Wednesday after the close. And what I like about this one, kind of the same thing we were just talking about with that BRFH, you know, broke over this trend line, right, and then has pulled back on lower volume, back to the top of that trend line and to the 50-day moving average. Potentially looking for a bounce off there, trend line break. I think, if I'm not mistaken, let's just take a look at this. No, it's not all-time highs. I thought it was, but I was wrong. $44.50, $45, big spot to try and get through for NTAP, right? On a weekly time frame, that has acted as resistance multiple times. So, you know, if it could take out $45 with some conviction, you could get a nice little pop. It's oversold, and you know, like I said, potentially bouncing off that 50-day moving average. That one could be, this one could be worth watching. 188 million shares in the float. Probably more of a swing or long-term hold than a day trade. Lower left, upper right, above the 200-day. I like NTAP quite a bit. Just have to see how those earnings come in. GLOB. So this is another one that's got an interesting look. Now this is a foreign stock, so, but pull back to the 50-day, right? Pull back to 43 bucks basically. Actually pulled back to 42 and bounced off of there. It had a little reversal candle. This one reports on Thursday after the close. And you know, I'm kind of looking at this cup with handle formation that's going on here with this globe. 22 million shares in the float, 16.5% short interest. So pretty small float, could get a little squeezy. And if you back it to the weekly, this is testing all-time highs. So you take out that 47 with conviction, you're in blue sky territory with GLOB. I think it's got a pretty interesting daily look on it. We'll have to see what they report for earnings. And like I said, stochastics just starting to curl to the upside. Report a good number, maybe we see a nice move in GLOB. All right, I'm almost done here. Just a couple more. WYY. I have traded in and out of WYY many times, and they report earnings. Now, what's interesting about this is that they just had a activist investor get involved. They're putting 2 people on the board. You know, cybersecurity. There's speculation that these guys may put themselves up for sale. You know, it seems to be holding support here in this 40-cent range. If they report better than expected earnings, I think you could see a nice gap, but I wouldn't chase this gap. Right? There could be an intraday scalp opportunity there. This could be a high-risk swing, depending upon what they have to say on the earnings call. But this one, another penny play that maybe we get an opportunity to take a swing in, or not a swing, I should take a trade in on Tuesday after the close or Wednesday morning. Worth keeping an eye on that one. And let's see, is that, oh no, I've got 4 more here. 5 more. ENZY, biotech, has had a huge run. If they don't impress and, you know, say something really, really good that drives this stock higher, you could actually see a pretty good, decent sized pullback in this name. I mean, it's had a heck of a run in a short period of time. If they say something that, you know, is really awesome, then maybe this thing goes out and takes out $11, right? And you test some new highs. But it does have an interesting look on the daily time frame. I would just be hesitant because of the fact that it has had already such a big move into this event. So, but it does have an interesting setup on the daily. MBII, and they report, ENZY reports, hold on, I'm looking. Okay. Can't find it. Now, they report next week. I just don't know what day because I can't find it for some reason. Oh, there it is. Sorry. Wednesday before the open. ENZY. Could be a day trade opportunity there. MBII, another one that is reporting Monday after the close. right? Trying to stay above that dollar holla. Only has 14 million shares in the float. Potential day trading opportunity there. Looking for a break over over that trend line, over 125. Think maybe you get a test up into the $1.50 area. You got to have some volume, right? Got to have some liquidity to be able to get in and out. But worth keeping an eye on MBII if they report decent earnings. QIWI is reporting on Tuesday before the open. Now, this is not looking real great here. It had a beautiful run, pierced the upper Bollinger Band, pulling back, lower volume, pulling back to the 200-day. Potentially this could be a little double bottom bounce at an area of price support, right? See this, it acted as resistance, it busted through there. You're pulling back, you're testing that as support, and then you've got the 200-day just below that also could be acting as support. JP Morgan put a $23 price target on this in April. See what the earnings have to say, right? Credit services, I think it's got an interesting look. This could be an interesting area for a bounce play. I'm not sure what the float is on this one. This might be a smaller float. You got to have some volume. Traded 364,000 shares on Friday. Not bad. Look for a potential double bottom bounce off of this one. And this reports on, like I said, Tuesday before the open. So could be in play on Tuesday. GALT. This reports on Monday before the open. Hold on a second here. All right. Just broke below the 200-day, right? Not a great thing, but it's sitting at an area of potential price support. It is oversold. If they have some, I don't like the slope of all the shorter term moving averages. If they have some decent news, maybe you get a pop, break above that trend line and break above these moving averages, right? Maybe, you have to see where this is trading pre-market, but this one could be worth watching. 27 million shares in the float, 4% short interest. If it disappoints, likely you're going to pull back, maybe test somewhere in the $1.50, $1.30 area as potential support. But if they surprise or say something positive out of their call, you could get a nice trend line break and a pop over $2. So worth keeping an eye on GALT for a day trading opportunity. And then we're going to end this with DGLY. So this is the one that is continually, suing, or they're in a lawsuit with, what was it, Axon, which was Taser, right? Not a good looking chart on this thing, and nobody seems to care about their court proceedings, or what the what is it? Come on, Tim, think. Patent Attorney's Office has to say about their patents, but West Park put a $9 price target on this in April. It just broke below some. Well, actually, you know what? It held this. Now it broke right below this potential price support. It is piercing the lower Bollinger Band. Maybe you get a bounce out of this one. I would be just looking for a day trade on this. If they report decent earnings, they report Monday after the close, right? 4.9 million shares in the float and 18% short interest. So could get a little squeezy if they report something positive. My guess is they're really going to be touting these recent rulings from the United States Patent Attorney's Office or the court. Look, don't put a lot of credibility in that, man. Court cases take a long time to play out, so, and they're going up against a pretty big player. So, but worth keeping an eye on DGLY. See if there's a potential trade opportunity there. It has had some nice spikes in the past. It can be a pop and flopper, so do not chase it, okay? All right, that is it. That's the whole list of stocks to watch for next week. If you like what I do here over at Alpha Wolf Trading, come check us out. And if you would like to have this video sent directly to your email each and every week for free, just go over to Alpha Wolf Trading and sign up, and we'll get it out to you each and every week. Have a fantastic weekend. Be safe out there. Have fun. Try not to let the stuff that's going on around the world get you down. Some pretty crazy stuff going on here in the States and globally, right? Apparently we're not happy with just trying to irritate North Korea. We also want to irritate Venezuela. So I don't know. I'm not laughing because it's funny. Well, it is kind of funny actually, but don't let all this stuff get you down. Just enjoy life. Worry about the things that you can control. Right. All right. Have a fantastic weekend, and good luck trading next week, and I will see you all next week.